Hi everybody, what's up? My name is Juan. I am Just One Reader. I'm here with my March wrap-up and April TBR. I have a lot of ground to cover in just one video, so I'm gonna be very fast. If you want to know more about these books, go and check out my recent reads wrap-ups, or if I have separate book reviews, go and check them out. So the first book that I completed in March was The Dragonfly Poole by Ava Lavender. This is a young adult classic novel. It was delightful from beginning to end. It is full of nice settings, quirky characters, good people, and it's the kind of book that restores your faith in humanity. I loved it and I gave it 4 stars. Super recommendable. Then the next book that I read is probably, it's been my biggest surprise of the year because I never expected to love it as much as I did. This is The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I wasn't even planning on reading The Lord of the Rings this year, but something took over me, something took possession of me and compelled me to pick it up from the shelf and just read it. So I picked it up on a whim and I ended up adoring it. Like, I was fascinated by this world and the history of these people, and everything in this world felt so tactile, so real, so anthropologically correct and realistic. And I think that on top of everything else, the thing that made me love this book as much as I did is how parental, how the parental love that the creator has for its creation. You can really feel that this author has put so much effort and care and love in this creation, and reading this really feels like an act of love and like an act of trust, of trusting the reader with his creation. So I really loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I'm eagerly anticipating the second book in the series. The next book that I read was The Lady Macbeth of the Minsk District. This is a Russian classic novella written by Nikolai Leskov. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I think it is wild and ruthless and delicious and dark and intense, and such a great novella, such a great way of spending a couple hours. Absolutely adored it. Then I picked up something quite different, A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, which is a novel that a lot of people that I really trust have really loved, and it's a very popular, very hyped novel everywhere. It was a finalist for the Man Booker Prize, and you know what? I think it started out great. I really liked the first couple hundred pages of it, but then I started to feel like the author was handling the information a little bit too heavy-handedly. I started feeling like I started seeing the author behind the book, like the puppet master behind the show. And that kind of took me a little bit, away from everything. And instead of feeling immersed with these characters in this story, I started to feel like it was also kind of a non-fiction book, which is not bad. It's a very good book. It's very philosophical. It is very illuminating, and it's very cerebral and honestly mind-blowing. And it's a book that I treasure immensely, but it was not a perfect experience for me. So I really value it. I really liked it, but it's not a book that I love. I give it 3.75 out of 5, almost 4 stars, almost, but still very recommendable. Then the next book that I read was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Kind of the same thing happened again. Intellectually and thematically, I think this book is very rich and absolutely important. I really loved analyzing it and dissecting it, and it was very funny at times, but I didn't find it consistently funny or consistently enjoyable. So there were some times where I felt like the detail was overwhelming and very boring and frankly unnecessary. Overall, I enjoyed it. I understood its relevance and its why it's so meaningful, and I gave it 3 stars. but I was not in love with it. Then I read this masterpiece by Kurt Vonnegut, SlaughterhouseFive, which is a book that I had been wanting to read for quite a long time, and I finally did. And I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, and the only reason I didn't give it 5 out of 5 is because I think this is a book that I will grow, I will love even more upon a second read. So I want to read it again, and then I will give it 5 stars, I think. But yeah, this was so original and unique. I really think this is the only book like this book that exists out there in the world. It is very funny and very sad and very weird, and if you like George Saunders, you have to read this. That's all I'm gonna say. Then, a tragedy. I tried reading this, The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North, and I DNF'd it. I bailed on it. I think I read like 7 pages of it, and I thought the writing was pretty bad, pretty terrible. It didn't sound like something that would be compelling, for me at least, so I thought it was gonna be a waste of time, and yeah, if I think the book is gonna be a waste of time by page 7, I'm not continuing on, so sorry. Let me know if you've read it or if you know anything about it, because maybe I'm missing out. And then the last book that I actually finished in March was this Mexican novel, which I read for class for one of my psychoanalytical classes as part of my psychoanalytical training and PhD. This is Eyre de Josefina, which was written by Luisa Reyes Retana. I don't think you can get this in English, but if you speak Spanish and you can get a hold of this book, do so. You have to read this. This is kind of a very interesting and very true and very heart-wrenching portrayal of the family dynamics between certain mental disorders such as schizophrenia and paranoia. I really loved the tone and the atmosphere of this book. Everything feels very loveless, lifeless, barren, bleak. It's so like, oh, it feels like something dark and yeah, like there's no possibility for life. So I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. So those are all the books that I read in March. Now let's move on to my April TBR. Firstly, I want to finish the 2 books that I am currently reading right now. I am loving both of them. First is the Phantom Tollbooth by Norton Juster. This is a middle grade novel. I am absolutely in love with this book. I am almost finished with it, and I think it's gonna be my favorite book of the year, honestly. I'm just, it's so amazing, so amazing. And the other one is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I am finally reading Jane Eyre, and it is lovely, and it is so impeccably written and fascinating. And then I have 5 books that I want to read. William Faulkner's As I Lay Dying, because I've been told that this is really important and a perfect way to get started with William Faulkner. Then John Irving's very popular novel, A Prayer for Owen Meany. I don't really know what this is about, but I just, I sort of picked it up on a whim at Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and I said to myself, why not? Then I have a piece of nonfiction. This is God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything by Christopher Hitchens, which is basically a bunch of arguments about why religion is essentially not okay. I am an atheist. I've never really believed in, God or anything like that, even though I was raised Catholic and everything. I never really bought it, so religion has always been kind of, nonsense to me. But I'm really looking forward to informing myself and getting more arguments on that topic, because sometimes I feel like my disregard and sometimes quite cynical contempt for religion comes from a very angry place of having been raised in a certain way that I don't agree with. So I want to be informed, and I want to have those arguments that I feel like are just waiting for me. So there you go. Then I have The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. This is young adult fiction. Like, this is proper YA. And I don't really like YA anymore, but I'm still looking forward to discovering a YA gem that will redeem the genre for me. So I'm hoping this will be any good. The cover is frankly just gorgeous, and it kind of has a mythical feel to it, so I'm hoping it won't let me down. And finally, I want to read Donna Tartt's The Little Friend. This is the only Donna Tartt book that I haven't read, and both of her other novels, The Secret History and The Goldfinch, are two of my favorite books of all time. I adored them. And this is a very interesting novel because people usually don't like this book. People really have very different opinions about this book. They either love it or they absolutely dislike it, and they feel it's boring and dull, and they don't see why Donna Tartt wrote it. Like, they don't understand why the same woman who wrote The Secret History could write something like this. So it's a very interesting endeavor. I really want to read it. I don't know if I have high or low expectations. Honestly, I'm just trying to see what it is. Guys, that's it for today. Please leave your comments down below so we can have a conversation about these or any other books. Thanks for watching. I am Just One Reader, and I'll see you next time.